Okay, welcome everybody to the Tuesday, October 6, 2015 Board of County Commissioners work session. Three of us have just returned from a meeting in Leadville with the Lake County Commissioners, and we're running about 40 minutes behind schedule right now.
Too much fun
So
over there.
we're going to skip some other things on our agenda, but we'll take as much time as we need to on these items. So first of all, we'll talk about a supplemental budget request from the clerk's office regarding imaging.
Okay. So let me introduce myself and Linda. I'm the Pickens County Clerk and Recorder, Janice Voss-Caudill, and with me is Linda Gustafson, who is our Chief Deputy Clerk, and she heads our recording department and is working on special projects the next couple of years to move our recording operations forward technologically. So the supplemental we're asking for today is allocation of $100,975 for an imaging project in our recording department. And that would be to image records from 1881 to 1997. Presently,
1977.
1977.
Yeah.
Okay. That's why I bring Linda with me. At this time, all our documents are imaged from 1977 to present.
Right.
So what does
End
that
of
mean?
77,
Yeah.
yeah.
So what does that mean, 1977 to present? What does that mean? Anyone, anywhere in the world can go online, okay, and do research for grant or grantee, and then purchase a copy from us, okay? If they want to do research on documents from 1881 to 1977, they have to physically come into our office and conduct research. And that would be research in books or various film media, aperture cards, microfilm, microfiche, etc. So what our goal is to have one media. Our goal is to image all our records and have them online for research anywhere in the world from 1881 to present. Okay? So what are the benefits of doing this? What I want to go over are the benefits and why we're doing it now, and then tell you about the funding. Okay? So the benefits of doing it now is, as you know, we will be relocating out of this building because we're going to be remodeling this building. And our office will be relocating in Aspen. With this imaging project, we will be able to take images with us, okay? And individuals will be able to come into our office in our new location and research images on computer stations within our office. We will not be bringing with us and moving most of the books or all the film with us. We will be moving that down valley. And there's a couple of reasons. It's more cost effective to store down valley, okay? And we will also set up a retrieval system. Just in case maybe an image isn't as clear as we wish, we'll have a retrieval system down valley to bring that up for the customer. So space is an issue, cost is an issue, okay? Also, in returning, we do not anticipate bringing the books and returning into the physical space here. We anticipate that the books will be stored in perpetuity down valley, where it is more cost effective. Okay. The other thing is, once we have all our images digitized, they will be stored on the Pickens County servers with a backup, and it's a more efficient contingency plan, disaster recovery contingency plan. And let me give you an example of that. Remember when we had to evacuate the building, this building for asbestos? We were required the next morning, we had to come into our office the next morning, not us, but we had a team, take our computers out and set up over in the courthouse. All the books remained in here for a week, so the title companies, our customers, the real estate industry could not do research during that week because the books were in this building because of the asbestos issue. If we image everything and we have to move or do anything, you will be able to, any customer will be able to go online and research documents online. Another project we're working on, and we will be coming back to you this next year, is we will be converting our recording system. And with the new recording system this next year with the conversion, we know we can take all these images and back post them into our new recording system, okay, upload them, and then pull them, index them, and push them out to the public for research capability. What we know about that project is that customers will then be able to purchase a document, an image of a document online anywhere in the world from 1881 to present, okay? We know that other counties are doing this already, the larger counties, some of the medium counties, because they have the financial resources, and I'll go a little bit into that. We're finding out that, and hearing from them, that their online access has jumped exponentially, substantially, and their revenues have increased, their copy-free revenues have increased because of the online purchasing of copies of images. Okay. So it's more convenient for the customer to sit at home or in their office to do research rather than physically having to travel here and conduct it in our office. All right. So that's the goal of our project, where we want to be in a couple years. The budget impact is this imaging project costs $100,975,000. Since 2004, per statute, we in the recording department have been collecting a $1 recording technology surcharge on each document we record and placing that into a dedicated fund. Okay? The amount we have in that dedicated fund to support this project is $72,000. We need another $30,000 or $29,000 from general fund to finish the project. We also want it to be noted that during the recession, we worked with John and agreed for 3 years to pull money out of our dedicated $1 surcharge account and help subsidize through the recession. If we had not done that, we would have had $128,000 in the account to pay for this project. We anticipate we will continue to collect the dollar surcharge in the future. That'll go through legislation this next year. They'll be working on it, so just heads up on that. Good. So I hope that's clear of what our goal is and what the cost is. I don't know if you have any questions. I just want to throw out a kudos to Linda and her crew. As we know, Linda's been working here 34 years. We, in assessing our books in the vault, they are in excellent condition. And the indexing and the filing system is in very good condition in comparison to many, many other counties. So I just want to throw out kudos to the staff for all their hard work and what they do. Our next step would be to invest money to restore these books. We don't see much of that happening. It's extremely costly to restore the books, and we don't see that happening. So that saves a substantial amount of money for the county as well in the future.
Makes sense to do it while the records are in still really good shape. I mean, a lot of them are, you know, obviously over 100 years old. So,
yeah.
George?
I'm supportive of this. I have 2 questions. One is, if people will be able to access these documents online, how will you collect a surcharge then?
With the new record, well,
the surcharge that we collect, it's $1 per document that gets recorded. So not the copy. So you bring your deed in today and you bring your deed of trust, we get $1 for each document. So that continues to come in.
Okay.
It's not charged on the copy fee per se.
It goes to that dollar surcharge per recorded document goes to a dedicated fund. Specifically, statute states that it's for to establish, to maintain, and improve the recording electronic filing system. So that helps us move forward with the technology.
And then since you're not going to look at refurbishing or
Restoring?
restoring any of the current information, when you store that, does that need a special storage area in terms of air and things like that?
It needs to be in climate and humidity controlled area. So we'll be looking at that. We'll be working with that in our move and trying to find a place down Valley.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for asking.
Mm-hmm.
Michael?
So what are the priorities for preserving county records? So cost is, you know, one of the elements. But isn't the priority the security of those documents?
Yeah.
Perpetual security of those documents? So you're really looking for, it could be stored anywhere in the world, really. You keep seeing Down Valley, but
We could work also with the archives in Denver to see if they'll take some of it and archive it for us. There's different options to look at.
yeah, but I mean, my point being that really it's the security of those documents. It's not how cost-effective the storage is. It's the security of those documents that counts the most.
The preservation, is that what you're
yeah.
saying?
Yeah, well, and, you know, I also see it in preserving them in a digital form. Do you know what I mean? So that they are, I mean, it's important to maintain the books, but also you want to maintain those images so they're always accessible to
Right,
everyone.
well, that's an aspect of
Right,
of
yeah.
of that, but you need the originals.
Right,
You need the
yeah.
originals. So I support the project. I just think that you know, that you should be thinking about not what's the most cost-effective way to store them, but what's the best way to store them. And
How do
what's
we-
the best
Yeah.
location.
How do we,
And that's a cost that you just can't really slice away at. That's all I'm saying.
how do we assure that we retain the quality of those records?
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah. So, you know, if documents are stored in this basement, that's problematical.
Right,
Any subgrade storage is problematic, as far as I'm concerned.
right, I agree,
Thank you.
yeah.
Patty?
I'm too supportive of this, but the question I have is when you said that during our move, et cetera, you'd have them so that somebody, if the quality of the document wasn't such that you could bring the original up, would that still be the case after, down the line, when you were just going to store the books that are over here somewhere, like you said, Down Valley? Would we still have the opportunity then to go in and find that one or two documents that we might need to have the originals? Would that still be an opportunity that we would provide, or not?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, I mean, I believe we're planning to maintain the books. I mean,
So if
Some-
worst case scenario, the digital image was horrible, we could go back and find the original, which might also not be a great document, would hopefully provide better visual for whoever was looking at it.
right. And the other thing is this company, US Imaging, I mean, we've seen demos from them where they've taken documents, like old microfilm that basically you almost can't even see there's an image there, and they have technology where they can pull out, you know, and really make a
Enhance it.
very good image. And that is one of the reasons we picked this company. We're not just picking somebody that's just gonna take
Run
what's
through.
there and, you know, yeah.
They'll image it, and then there's 2 quality control processes they'll go through to assure that the image
It's the best
is
it
as-
could possibly.
And then they enhance them,
Yeah.
you know, even if there's like a piece of it they can't see, like a signature maybe was in red ink or blue or something, and they'll pull that
Well, that's
as
good
much
to
as they
know.
can get
It'll
out.
take us another good year to work through this project and then start uploading to the new system next year and then start pulling them, indexing them. The other thing is, we know that there will be a transition time. If the books we relocate to have a retrieval system, there's a learning curve with the customers too. Some customers like to have the originals.
Some people still like paper.
Paper,
Yeah.
I'm good.
Will this company come and do the work here, or will the materials be taken to a lab or something big?
No, we didn't want the books to leave this office. We do have some microfilm out of the archives that we are working with them on, but the books are not leaving this office.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, this is a great project, and it's really ensuring that we can preserve a part of our history. And to me, one of the most fascinating things is to look in the old books and see people's signatures on these old, almost parchment kind
Yeah.
of paper and whatnot. It's really fascinating.
Yeah.
Our books are in excellent condition, so kudos to the staff. Okay,
All right.
all right, thank you.
All right, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Next on our items of open discussion, we have the facilities update.
Hello, Dave Detwater from Facilities,
And I'm Kathy Chandler from the library.
and I'm going to be really quick because I got a 4 o'clock conference call. So
Go.
Wanted to do, Kathy's going to update you on some stuff for the library, assuming your schedule permits. She's got some stuff to show you, but I wanted to give you the quick update on budget and schedule for the library. We got our Phase 2 remodel bids, which is the final number for bidding out the remodel. So this is done with all of our bidding. We're in budget, including our having about $600,000 left in our contingency. So it was good news. We're in budget. Everything's moving forward with all the remodel. We didn't have to do any more reductions. So that was wonderful news. The schedule, the timeline now that we've got that mapped out is to be done with construction in May, moving back in and open for business sometime in June is the current plan. So we're working with City of Aspen and Related of Colorado on those temporary spaces that we have to get that all worked out. So that's my big update. Next week, I'm on a work session for you on the new Sheriff and Administration building, where we'll get you caught up on that one and have some options for you to look at and discuss. Everything else is kind of percolating.
Okay. It's 3:57.
Go.
How good is that?
Thank you, Dave.
For your
Catching you back up.
We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay, and we talked before the meeting that we should probably ask whether you even want to look at this little presentation that I put together to show you sort of what's going on inside the building, or if you would rather skip it and make up time. And I could come back another time. I'm easy either way.
George?
Well, I don't need to see it, but I have one quick question off of Dave's comments. Right now, you've got sort of a contract with the city to use the old art museum until January, but you're not going to actually be moved in completely into the library until June. So you've got 5-6 months. So you have to move again, or what?
We are in discussions with the city. They seem inclined to try to give us a month-to-month extension on the lease. They said that there might be some outstanding contracts that might conflict with that plan, but they're trying to help us so that we don't have to move twice. And what we had proposed was if they had to have that building back, obviously it's their building, we're very beholden to them for having let us use it, but we will move out if we have to. And so our plan B would be to try to find a storefront to do further reduced operations out of. And then Related Colorado in Snowmass Village, Snowmass Hospitality has been also doing us a huge favor by letting us have storage in the parking garage there, and that's where all of the collection and the furniture is currently stored. And again, we have a temporary lease with them and have asked them if they could see a way clear to let us continue leaving our materials there on a month-to-month basis.
So was I forget, but was the original time frame to be back in the library was May or June of 2016?
You know, we had a 17-month plan, and our hope had been that we would be able to move out of these buildings into the addition. I thought that we would be able to get a partial certificate of occupancy. And so we had asked our contractor to figure out a plan, because we said, you know, we need to be out of these buildings January 31st, and they were working on that. And then in their discussions with the building department from the city, they found out that the city does not issue partial certificates of occupancy. So then we went back and said, you know, are you sure we can't do this? And they said because of the number of people that we have in the library building and the fire suppression and life safety issues, that we definitely would not qualify for an exception to that rule. So that has put us in this situation where we're asking them for month-to-month extensions.
Steve, can I just real quick?
Yeah.
What was What was our plan to move out of this building and where we were going to have our board meeting?
Yeah,
Is
so
that not impacted?
this will be probably part of our discussion coming up next week, but I think we may have a little bit of a domino effect where we may delay for a quarter our anticipated start for this building. That actually is not going to impact that project that much because we're taking a little bit more time on the front end with the programming and design, so I think that schedule was going to slip a little bit anyway. What's going to be coming in front of you next week is there are a couple of alternatives in terms of the size of the footprint and such that we need to get a stake in the ground on. Yeah, so we had originally, Patty, I think, been looking at could we have a March start for the construction here. That will likely push back to be more in line with the completion of the library. Yeah, and so we're actually trying to sync those things up so that we have as little disruption to the public process as possible and also to both of our projects. And it just makes sense to try and finish up over here before we mobilize on another project.
Well, then what happens with the proposed leases that we're going to have on space to move?
We're anticipating all of this. Some of them will need to start. Some of them are spaces that are rather competitive, and so we'll probably need to lock those down, and so there will be some impact. And the other leases, we're trying to negotiate start times with those that's more commensurate with the new start.
That'll be a broader discussion coming up then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do have pictures of the meeting room if you want to see this, or...
Would you guys like to see these at this time, or do you?
I would at some point, but I don't think today's going to be work for us.
Sorry
Okay.
about that.
No,
Kathy.
that's just fine. That's
Sorry,
just
we had to
fine.
go see a mosaic wall in Leadville from the county commissioner, so, which was pretty cool, by the way.
Michael, did you have a question?
No, I do not.
This is a lot of kind of juggling of time and money in terms of starting this project here. And we absolutely need, well, I guess we don't absolutely need the public meeting room for our commissioners' meeting room if we could use the Rio Grande place or something else temporarily, but is there any way that we could speed the library project up, get extra people on and pay a little more for that? Because we might save, if we could get this project here started sooner, we might save so much money.
I think our design timeline is slipping a little bit right now anyway because of the alternatives that we'll be talking to you about next week. And so I'm not so sure we're going to be that far off. We may be ready to start on our project here a little bit before the library is completed. And if that's the case, we're working on some contingencies. Could we continue to use this room while we start maybe to do some of the work upstairs and do some of the site prep back here? So we're working on some alternatives right now.
You could ask for a partial certificate of occupancy.
Yeah, that sounds like a
I
great
don't
idea.
think, I don't think we're going to get that, and for a lot of good reasons. I think completely respect where the city's coming from on that, and they've been a fantastic partner in working with us to certainly
Yes, they have.
accommodate the library through the time that they committed to, and have been a good partner in working with us to try and accommodate these changes in our schedule. So I think this is all going to probably work out okay without hurting us on our other project, on our main project here.
Okay.
You know, what you just said is being recorded.
I do. Well, I think this will be okay. I can't say about the 100 other things that could happen with the project.
Okay, great.
Okay, thanks,
Thanks,
Kathy.
Kathy.
Sorry about that timeline.
Oh, that's just fine.
We do have Ashley.
Okay, yeah. And while Kathy's getting her stuff out, next up, we're going to have a presentation on the Georgetown University Energy Challenge. And we have Ashley Pearl from the City Canary Initiative project here.
And Rylan French.
Hello.
Hi.
Thanks for having us.
So we didn't prepare anything formal as far as slides and whatnot. We just, okay, you're all right with that. We just thought we'd give you a pretty brief update and then see what you were most interested in learning about. So I'm Ashley Pearl, I'm with the city's Canary Initiative, and Rylan French is our energy efficiency expert. So if you've ever received a light bulb or an energy assessment, it's thanks to Rylan over here. And we've been working for the past year now on the Georgetown University Energy Prize, which is a national competition that Rylan will tell you about, and then that has kind of been pared down to our local effort, which we've called the Aspen Energy Challenge. And we finally have a pretty good plan for how we're going about it, so we've enacted some actions on the plan, and we have a budget and a lot of staff committed to this, and it's a partnership with CORE and Holy Cross and Source Gas. So we felt like it was time to update our other partners and let you know what we've been up to and just see really what you're most interested in learning about in kind of our focus for the next year, which is energy efficiency in the housing sector, housing and schools. So it's really Rylan's project, so I'll let you take it away. And
All right.
we're just, all we have is a little handout, and then we're happy to talk about whatever you're specifically interested in. So.
Thanks, Ashley. So, as Ashley said, Aspen has been accepted into a competition called the Georgetown University Energy Prize. It's a national energy efficiency competition. There's a $5 million prize to the winning community, and that's going to be based on energy savings and then community involvement, innovation, replication, education, equitable community involvement, several factors. So when the city decided we wanted to pursue being in this competition, we put together our application and whatnot. We partnered with our nonprofit that we work with very closely, which is Energy Smart Colorado at CORE, the Community Office for Resource Efficiency, and then our other local utilities. So City of Aspen Electric is the municipal electric utility, and then Holy Cross and Source Gas. So we came together to put together the application, and we've been working together as a team for the last year and a half, really, to compete. And locally, we've branded it as the Aspen Energy Challenge. We thought that would kind of hit home with the community more than Georgetown University Energy Prize, so we made it the Aspen Energy Challenge. Kind of some logistics. So the competition is running through all of 2015 and 2016, so we're right in the middle of it right now. And we're competing to save the most electricity and natural gas in homes, schools, and municipal buildings. That's City of Aspen municipal buildings, not county buildings. And I didn't mention commercial buildings, and that's not in there, just to be clear. And that data that we're reporting quarterly is monthly aggregate data from the community that we're gathering from the utilities, and that is being compared to a baseline period of 2013 and 2014. So ideally, out of the 50 communities that are competing, we're one of them. Out of those 50, our energy savings through these 2 years ideally would be in the top 10 communities. And if that were the case, the top 10 or so will advance to the finalist stage and will be judged on some metrics beyond just energy savings, some of the other points I mentioned, innovation, replication, and whatnot. A little more on the logistical side as far as where the energy data is coming from. We are using data from homes and schools and municipal buildings within the Aspen emissions inventory boundary. You might be familiar with that, or maybe not, but you can see a map of it on this handout here. So it's the same boundary that we use as the Canary Initiative Department for our greenhouse gas reporting for community greenhouse gas emissions. And it is very similar to the urban growth boundary, except it also includes the Starwood area. So that does include some of the county beyond just the City of Aspen boundary. So another reason we wanted to kind of give you guys an update and let you know what we're working on with that.
And we set that boundary because measuring greenhouse gases just in the city limits, we felt like wasn't representative of the community as a whole. we know that there's so much more activity like the airport and the landfill and all of our housing that's direct outside city limits that actually contributes to greenhouse gases. So that's kind of, even though we're City of Aspen, employees, we work well within that boundary, and we partner with Cindy Hubin a lot within this boundary so that we're making sure that we're not siloed in our greenhouse gas reduction efforts, but that anything we do is kind of being accounted for by the county, and that we know what you're doing so that we're trying to track. We live in a data world, so we're always trying to track what we're doing. So that's why that boundary is such, and it was just really easy to get that same data for the Aspen Energy Challenge. We felt like, why create another boundary? Just, we already have that data coming in quarterly anyway, so.
Exactly.
But wouldn't it be easier to win the challenge if you just did the City of Aspen?
It would be.
$5 million on the line, I would take the easy way.
Yeah.
It depends what, some things are easier in terms of competing and some things are easier in terms of data collection. And the data collection, both as an individual competitor and for Georgetown as kind of the keeper of this competition, has been one of the most challenging things. So that, again, as Ashley said, is one of the reasons we decided to use this emissions boundary, because we were already asking for this data. The utilities were familiar with this boundary, and it is a big ask for them to provide this monthly data. So we didn't want to kind of throw another requirement or ask in there to confuse them or even kind of put up a roadblock to them being willing to partner with us on this competition.
And although we would love to win $5 million as a community, the real win is that this year we have had to just completely focus our efforts in. So before, we had residential and commercial programs, and we were doing a lot with very few staff to try and do energy efficiency across the board for everyone. And we still have our commercial programs going, but this year we've just really been able to focus and do a deep dive into the residential sector, which is a place we haven't spent that much time. And you think about all the different types of homes that are here in our community, and we've never really interacted with some of the larger homeowners before. We have some programs with APSHA, but not a ton. And so this has been a great opportunity to really assess the housing stock, big to small, rental to owned, and really analyze, where we can get the most energy savings, which is something that we just hadn't really done before. So even though we haven't even won the $5 million prize yet, we're going to see a huge energy efficiency gain and a lot of great programming for our residents, which is, I think, what really, we feel like we need to serve the community a bit more with some of those programs. So we're excited to be doing that because of the program.
Couple questions. What happens if we do get the blast of El Nino and we have a really big cold winter? How is that going to skew the numbers, or do they let you take that into consideration?
It's a great question, and it is taken into consideration. So the competition is for small to medium-sized communities, so 5,000 to 250,000. So there's two ways that they normalize the data. It's by population, which they use the number of accounts served, and then for weather. So there's a tool through the EPA to normalize energy use data for weather.
So to go back to the weather we had 2013-14 versus 15-16.
Right.
The other thing is, what are you going to do with the $5 million?
That's a great question.
Yeah, we haven't made any kind of decisions like that. Georgetown has very kind of limited requirements. Really, just that it's invested back in the community and done so in an equitable way. So that's, we've done some brainstorming, but nothing serious yet. But if it does come to us being one of the 10 finalists, we'll have to write a report on how we achieved what we did, success exactly, and included in that will be what we would use the money for, and that would be a much more involved process, different stakeholders in the community.
And then I have another question, and I'm not really sure how to ask it. I think I can get help from the members of the board and from John about the greenhouse emissions from the airport and how they were reported. We had some concerns about how that data was actually compiled and if it really fit what our real greenhouse emissions were. I think we as a board said, fine, we'll shut down the airport. No problem, you guys can. We know that can't happen.
Not
but
what we're asking.
It was specifically about the gas amount of jet
Yeah.
fuel used, and I think we talked about this.
And I think that is recognized on both fronts. That had more to do with the carbon potential of the fuel that was put into the aircraft versus the actual use was the basics of how I understood it.
Yeah, so we can dive into that and then maybe come back to energy
I just want to
challenge,
make
but
sure
yeah.
that that'll be something that'll be addressed, so we have a more accurate way of reporting those numbers and calculating
Yeah.
those numbers.
So as far as the energy challenge goes, it's just residential, so the airport's not part of it.
Okay, then we don't need to go there.
But when you're talking about the recent Aspen Community Greenhouse Gas Inventory
Right.
that we published, so we do that every 3 years.
Right.
And this year, coming into the next cycle, we've actually talked about doing a more regional inventory, so.
So that'll be addressed. I
Yeah,
just
so
noticed
Cindy
in
and I
your
are
map,
working
the
with-
airport kind of jumped right out at me, I saw this
Yeah,
plane flying.
so
through.
that's the same map that we use for the greenhouse gas
that-
inventory. So the
and then
airport
you
is
left those little
included.
pictures in there.
Yeah,
Okay.
not included in Aspen Energy Challenge, but is included in our community inventory, which I'd love to chat with you guys, with the board more about if you're interested. But I think it was a great partnership with the airport and Canary, because the airport actually went out and worked with Mary Vigilante, who is your consultant for greenhouse
Right,
gas
right.
accounting, and did a new inventory for the purposes of this, which was really great because we're not experts in airport operations. And you had previously done an inventory in 2010 with Mary, and so we were prepared to just use the 2010 numbers for our 2014 inventory. And then we were able to work with the staff out there, and they said, no, we're happy to do one for 2014. We want new data. So
I want to
we
make sure that
followed.
that was in the discussion somewhere, but I understand it's not part of this. I just wanted to bring it up at this time. But
Yeah.
I'm just, I think it'd be great to have community input. How are you going to spend that $5 million?
Yeah, and
We have to win it first.
Yeah, exactly. But that community input would certainly be part of
The
what we
next
would
steps.
gather, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's mostly all the logistics of the competition, and then kind of the more exciting part is what we're doing in an effort to win the competition and to benefit the community. So we have, among the team that I mentioned, we've been putting a lot of thought into planning, and now we're implementing these plans and projects and programs targeted specifically at certain groups of the Aspen community that we felt would be necessary to engage more, or to engage for the first time if we were to be competitive in this and to really make a difference in the community. So you can see those listed there. So just kind of a quick run through there. We've been working with the school, especially Core and Holy Cross. They completed a big project right at the end of 2014 with really large savings, which is actually perfect in terms of the data for this competition. And we're continuing to work with them to identify and pursue and complete more projects like that, actual infrastructure improvements. And we're also working with their faculty and staff and students to bring in kind of an engagement and curriculum piece into that for both students and parents. A big nut to crack is the homes behind us here on Red Mountain.
Like that large homeowners. right
Exactly, yeah. So yeah, Red Mountain, Star Mesa, those areas. So we've discussed that many times and gathered some input from different people, and the main approach we're taking is to work with the property managers that work with these large homes, because basically every home has a property manager. It's not the owner. They're not there a lot of the year. So we developed an incentive program for property managers to get energy assessments on those homes and make improvements. And we have our regular rebate programs for the homeowners, but also incentives for the property managers and trainings and whatnot. Really big one that we're working on and hoping to kind of roll out a very large program for is the affordable housing sector. For various reasons, that has been a community segment that's been hard to reach with energy efficiency programs in the past, but we think that we're getting to a point with some program design and some funding opportunities that we'll be able to really make a big push into that and make a difference both in energy savings, but even more importantly in terms of comfort and quality of life. 2 more multifamily buildings. Core has a regular program that they serve that sector with. We're going to continue with that. It's been successful in the past. And we're kind of also doing a full kind of outreach and engagement push to the whole community, and at the same time, community members who have participated in programs in the past. So you may have seen those. If not, I'm sure you will over the next year and a half as we're making a really big push, newspaper, radio, events, whatnot, to kind of get the name Aspen Energy Challenge out there, monthly calls to action. You know, we want you to do this month, get excited about this, see how we're doing in the competition.
And for each one of these sectors, we have an outreach component that says get involved, and then we have a more infrastructure, hard device type component. So each month you can get, you know, this month you can get a Nest thermostat, so one of the smart thermostats that helps you reduce your energy use. You know, in future months we'll be really focusing on lighting. Other months we'll be focusing on insulation in your home. So it won't just be get involved and then no follow-up. It says get involved and here's the free thing to help you get involved. So we have a lot of existing programs through the city and core, but we felt like not only do we want to amp those up, but we want to really target each of these sectors really, really specifically with what speaks to them. So that's been an interesting study in what speaks to the larger homeowners versus what speaks to our folks who are in rental housing owned by APSHA. You know, very different motivators there. So designing programs for each audience that will get them to take action. So that's our goal. Yeah.
George?
Yeah, I mean, as you said earlier, Ashley, I think regardless, the community's going to win through this, whether we win the actual Georgetown prize or not. Just being able to focus and drill down on these areas is going to be a tremendous win for the community as a whole. And I would suspect that you'll be able to utilize the most recent community grants that CORE has given out and to look at those projects with the greenhouse emission savings, because that was always a key criteria in terms of giving those grants out. And I know the CORE board is looking at helping to fund a project for rentals and affordable housing. And I know staff is working with APSHA to see how that can come about. So hopefully that would be again a great win-win for the community, for the residents in those units.
You're the Pickens County representative on the core board? Is that correct? Okay, so you're well in the loop with some of that brainstorming,
Right.
what we're thinking about. That would be, you know, CORE gives out grants each year to projects throughout the valley that reduce greenhouse gases, but CORE holds a fairly substantial fund of money that they're allowed to take more out with the board and the council's direction. So there has been a proposal put on the table to consider taking some additional rent funds this year and putting it towards our APSHA housing stock, just because we feel like that's a really one of the easier places to get in. You know, between the city and the county and APSHA, we hold the keys to a lot of them, literally. We know who's there, when they're moving out. We have, you know, so it's really it's just a will, where there's a will, there's a way, sort of, with some APSHA housing to make some big changes there. So I think it's been a great partnership and a good brainstorming. Cindy and Dave Hornbacher from the utility department came up with a great idea they presented to the board that we're going to follow up with Mona on next week, actually. So you will see us back, hopefully, for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Okay, well, it's exciting to be involved in a competition with this list of other places from around the country, and I look forward to hearing stuff in the newspaper and hearing reports on how people are responding to it, and I hope that we make it in the final 10 in the competition anyhow. That would be awesome.
Absolutely.
Is there a specific way that any of you would like to get involved? I mean, from a personal level, you can be an energy all-star. If you are thinking about doing some stuff in your home, we'd love to say, look, your leaders are, your community leaders are doing this. Or as a board or as a county, if you are interested in, if you're already running some projects in one of these particular sectors and you feel like there's a partnership opportunity, we're pretty much trying to just brainstorm every possible opportunity to get into these sectors. So if you think about it a little bit and want to get back to us, we'd love to kind of brainstorm some unique partnerships around this. So if you're thinking of wanting to get in a little bit more.
John?
Yeah.
Good.
I wasn't going to say anything, but it's something that we can.
I was going to sign you up right now.
I know. Yeah, I think a lot of the board and staff live outside the boundary for participation, so, you know, maybe from a leadership perspective, it helps. I don't know if you're open to doing stuff outside the boundary, but it's certainly something that we could brainstorm at a staff level together.
Well,
too.
I live inside the boundary, but I live in something that doesn't qualify, because it's a 1967 single-wide trailer, and it's really hard to get energy efficiencies into something that old. Besides that, my electric bill, I think, was like $12, so I'm doing my part.
Bravo.
Just
Well
turn those
done.
lights off a little more.
Right.
Well, we really appreciate the time to just come and kind of update you as we start to really dig deep into this project, and you'll see a lot more. But if at any point you have an idea or want to, you know, if the BOCC wants to get involved at all, we're definitely happy
Right.
to hear about it.
We'll be here for it.
Yeah, and other than that, I do meet with Cindy once a month, so we just kind of keep her updated. I know she's on the core board as well, so she's probably the staff link to this for the now. So.
Great, thank you. Thanks for coming over, guys.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for the time. Appreciate it.
Do you want any extras of these to give to anybody?
If we could get one for Rachel. to put
Yeah.
on the wall.
Yes, put one in Rachel's.
Absolutely. Okay.
I forgot to fill out the thing in the car about mileage.
I did.
Yeah.
I went, it's a new one for me, thank you.
Okay, next up we have, and this I think will probably be our last item we can cover today, will be preparation for the meeting with the Forest Service on October 13th and for the EOTC meeting on October 15th.
Yeah.
So we'll have and you're here for the Forest Service part, I presume?
Yeah, I was just gonna listen in and maybe add some thoughts, but I
Well,
think
come on in
John.
up front and center there, Ellen, especially if you have some thoughts to add. We set aside this time prior to joint meetings really to get an idea if there are topics or such that you want to cover. The EOTC is a little bit different. We have prep time set aside next week also because we are trying to set that agenda again, with multiple entities. But this board in particular had asked for some time to talk about agenda items that you'd like to have appear on that agenda before the agenda comes in front of you for prep. So that's really what we're doing today. Because our schedule got pushed back, Brian got into a scheduling conflict, so I was just going to take some notes on that today. But while we've got Ellen here, maybe we can talk a little bit about the Forest Service meeting and that agenda to start. So do we want to start with staff ideas?
Is that okay?
Sure.
Great. I understand, one, that there has been some interest expressed by the board to talk about the status of the Ashcroft ski touring housing and asking the Forest Service to give us an update on where they are in terms of that specific project.
And specific to that was the water issue, was the ability to do the survey, get the survey done so they could figure out the water issue so that housing could move forward.
So Suzanne Wolf was aware of this particular item and had anticipated inviting John Wilcox to come to the meeting unless you have other direction. Is that a reasonable thing to do?
Maybe take up the whole meeting.
I don't think that's a great idea.
I don't either.
I think, if we know the issue as well as John does, and it might be more productive if we talk to the Forest Service about the issue without having John present.
So, okay, so this is really to just get the Forest Service perspective on
I
it.
think, obviously if a citizen wants to come, I think asking for that participation when there's also a land use component on the other side probably doesn't make a lot of sense.
Okay.
I think we need to have Suzanne for this, so we know the specifics. And I think when we have the meeting with John, one of our concerns was maybe when we have our joint meeting, we can help to encourage the Forest Service to get this moving.
So you'd like Suzanne to be present? Is
I
that?
think if we're going to talk about it, that would make sense to me. I don't
She's
know.
the contact with John.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, as you know, we've been working on what we've been calling the Castle Creek Collaborative work plan with the forest, and we can give you an update on that if you'd like to know where we are in that process. And
That sounds appropriate.
okay. The Forest Service is also embarking on what they're calling the upper frying pan vegetation treatment, and it's basically they're looking at doing some forest health management in the upper frying pan area to address forest health, but also to address some safety concerns about the power line in the area, and also to address some concerns of front range water interests in terms of the potential for fire up there.
So this is frying pan. Will we be discussing anything about the Hunter Creek proposed prescribed burn? Because the Forest Service is managing that burn. It's being worked with ACES and the Open Space and Trails Board, but it's the Forest Service prescribed burn.
If you, that would be I think that would be a separate update. Or they could, I guess they could be combined. They're both forest health management approaches. The difference in the two is that the upper frying pan treatment hasn't even been scoped yet. It's in the very beginning stages, so it would just to give you an idea of what's being considered.
Steve, I think it'd probably be better use of time. I think the Hunter Creek one will be coming back to us in volume coming up here soon. I think this is the first I've heard of the frying pan one, so I'd rather touch base on that one, and we're going to be spending a lot of time on the Hunter Creek one coming up.
Well, I think we should have them both, because this issue is actually in front of the frying pan caucus, and they actually have a special meeting next Monday just for this topic. And I just want to make sure the lines and communications are clear in terms of knowing that, again, I always tell the caucus that they're just an advisory group, and they really can't make a decision in terms of what the Forest Service should be doing or not doing. And so it's an issue amongst some of the members up there. And so I think it's important for us to hear what the Forest Service is going to be doing, be able to provide input, because they're going to be having this conversation with the caucus next Monday, which is a continuation of the previous meeting.
Well, I don't think, I want to hear the frying pan one. I'm just saying that the Hunter Creek one, we might not want to utilize this time, because we're going to have a lot, in talking with Gary Tannenbaum after going to the fire conference, we're going to be hearing a lot about that in the next couple of months. So I don't know if we want to hear about it again from the Forest Service when it's going to be coming up. I'd rather hear about the one in the frying pan that I haven't heard anything about.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Yeah, no, I was saying that one is more important.
Okay. Another is, you provided scoping comments on the Independence Pass Winter Gate improvements, and I thought it might be helpful to have the Forest Service give an update on where that project is. And
Yeah, and I just note too, the Independence Pass Foundation has reached out to us because they're looking at rescoping that project, so we're working on maybe bringing them in for an open discussion. Just a brief update to the board also, so.
oh, okay.
I just want them to have a heads up if we did that. Yeah.
To have the Independence Pass Foundation in the room?
Well, just that they know it's going to be discussed. What I don't know is where they are in their discussions with the Forest Service on potentially rescoping.
Well, if you already have it on another agenda, perhaps we don't need to include it here.
Okay. Either way.
Michael? So I'd like an update, maybe the commissioners would, on sort of the issue of recreational overcrowding. You know, the Crater Lake, you know, the Forest Service and Conundrum Creek, and the use of what the Forest Service thinking is about those permits, restrictions,
Yeah,
whatever it is.
they are definitely looking into it in a big way, and I'm sure Karen could give you an update on where they are in that process too. That's a good idea.
And along with the properties at Wildwood, and how we can deal with that recreational, I don't know what you want to call it.
Okay.
Yeah, and the fact we do have these increasing numbers and we no longer have a visitor center, on that piece of property, where we were kind of led to believe that after they sold the property, that money would come back and we'd have a rebuilt, more efficient visitor center. And I've heard a lot of people who are like, where in the heck did it go? And what's their plan for that? And I heard that the Highlands Center was not very efficient, not very effective, and was pretty much in chaos. And it would be nice if we could have a discussion now for where it's going to go at the beginning of the summer with the visitor center. I mean, I myself think it's critical to have it right here in town on a piece of property that the forest just made how many millions of dollars off of. And we didn't see any of that returned into even keeping it open, even keeping the existing facility open. So I think that would be a great discussion to have, along with, we're seeing an increased use in numbers, and I think I agree with George about bringing in the Wildwood parking lot, or whoever said it, but it's a pretty critical issue for us.
I think, I'm sure Karen will probably touch on that, but all these issues come down to Forest Service's budget and resources they have available, and I think that's an interesting conversation that we'll hear in terms of where the Forest Service is in terms of their budget and their ability to provide or continue to provide the services that we've gotten accustomed to.
And to follow on that, I also noticed that the Land and Water Conservation Fund was allowed to expire as a result of congressional action on the federal spending budget. And I am curious to know to what extent that will affect the White River
That's a good part of that conversation.
National Forest budget. And so, okay, that's all I had.
Yeah.
That's a meeting.
I think we could probably, I think, George, what you're suggesting is just having a kind of a general discussion about the impacts of, budget changes and the act. Another one that we still haven't nailed down that may just be worth mentioning, we just averted another government shutdown, which seems to be an annual occurrence or every other year occurrence. And we still haven't developed protocols. You may recall for the Maroon Bells, we got kind of put into a fire drill situation where we ended up closing that road because there was not time to coordinate appropriate, services and protections in the absence. That would be another, not necessarily topic to work out, but maybe something to get both on as a priority for your staff, but also for the Forest Service staff, that maybe, given that this is a recurrence, perhaps we should have some protocols for those sensitive areas. Yeah. And we could have a number of topics really under budget like that.
How long are we allocating for this work session?
4 days.
Well, as typically happens, we come up with too many topics for us to fit in. Hold on, I was just looking at future agendas. I'm guessing we probably put it in for an hour. Let's see, it's the 13th.
Is it coming up on the 13th?
Well, do I have the wrong date here?
The 13th
Does it sound like an hour?
No, it's at noon. It's a lunch meeting. So
Minimum of an hour.
it's at noon on the 13th for an hour
If
with
we only have
lunch.
it down for half an hour, we better expand
Yeah.
it.
No, it's
Right
an hour,
now-
but we're also having lunch.
Right now, we've got it on for an hour, but we're doing it over lunch. We're starting at 10 and we're scheduled till 5. We have our budget presentation, our first budget presentation that day, from 2 to 5.
It's one of those, this agenda is full.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, hopefully we'll be able to provide some of our concerns to Karen, and we can always invite her back
Sure.
to
Yep.
address some of those.
One question that I'd like to know about the status of the insect infestation in trees here, both spruce pine and subalpine fir trees. I think all have some degree of insect infestation, and I'd be curious as to what extent.
That's kind of a whole discussion. We might, well, it kind of comes
And
in
if
with the
they
healthy
know that
forest.
ahead of time and can just give us a thumbnail sketch of it without going into too much detail.
Okay.
Anything else we can add to that?
Well, John, would you like me to coordinate with Karen Schroyer, or do you?
Yeah. Typically Cindy has done, I know she's out right now.
It's typically been me.
Yeah, oh, you would be great.
Okay.
That was not a tough one to answer.
Yeah, okay. Then I'll go ahead and relate this agenda request to her, and I don't know whether she'll have anything to add. She may from their end, but
We haven't covered it all. It'll be interesting to see what she comes
I will
up
coordinate with John if that's the case. Okay. Thank you.
with. Thank you.
Okay, we've got scheduled like 4 more minutes, which I guess we can put the PUZ
EOTC?
off for a couple of, for a few minutes, but how
yeah.
about the EOTC meeting preparation?
Yeah, so right now, this is really an opportunity to hear what topics. What I would note for the board is that right now, the main item of discussion for the OTC meeting is we will be talking about the 2016 budget. It is likely we're still working through, but from the county's perspective, we've been promoting doing a parking and staging study on Highway 82, really from Basalt up through to Aspen. Brian has been working on getting some proposals, so we have some costs for that. Should be prepared. I don't have those in front of me right now, what that ask would be, but I think that would be, I think it's somewhat significant kind of change or addition that we'd be seeking from the county side. And then we'll be talking, as we have been for the past few years, about how do we balance the questions of we don't call them lock boxes anymore, but the kind of project reserves that we've put aside as part of the budget discussion. The board had also, the EOTC at the last meeting had laid out, a number of potential future projects and discussions. And I think that's where maybe we get a feel where your guys' energy is on prioritizing some of that.
Yeah, I mean, I've had planted the seed in terms of utilizing the EOTC to have a discussion on the interest to Aspen. And I know the city is, as they're going through their budget cycle right now, that they're looking at allocating a certain amount of dollars for a transportation study. And I'm assuming that's just within the city itself, but the interest to Aspen is sort of part of that dilemma. And I just wonder whether we want to look at allocating a certain amount of 2016 budget to incorporate our parking, the intercept lot, as sort of expand that study to look at other opportunities for interest to Aspen, and if we want to set up a subcommittee, or I'd like to sort of keep that discussion moving and not get lost in the 2016 budget. Maybe an opportunity to allocate some dollars. And I'm not sure, again, what all the city is going to be looking at with their transportation study, and how we can perhaps align ourselves with the OTC as part of that, to expand that as an interest to Aspen.
You keep trying to break that table.
It's falling apart.
You'll have a couple more months. Hang in there. Yeah, George, I think George has been really diligent about bringing up the entrance to Aspen at every EOTC meeting since January. And I think this might be a good opportunity to say, well, if we're going to look at budget issues, let's look at the city's thought process for their traffic study and see what we can tie into that, and maybe put some EOTC funds to assist in that. So it is broader and does maybe bring in the growing issues at the intercept lot. I can't think of anything else.
That would probably be enough for a whole meeting, potentially.
Yeah.
Meetings at the city, right? City Hall? City's hosting, I believe, yeah. I think that's correct. On the 15th?
Yes, Aspen City Hall. And
Okay.
Aspen is hosting and chairing that meeting. If I could do one open discussion item,
Sure.
and we can wait for Rachel on this, but you had interviewed candidates for the Redstone Historic Preservation Citizens Board. You had 2 candidates, Nancy Cromie and Stephanie Askew. And I don't know if the board wanted to take just a few minutes and discuss that so that we might be able to respond to those applicants.
Nancy's the one who'd been on the board previously, right? Nancy Cromie. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I would definitely support having her come back.
and there's room, I mean, they have, I think,
A lot
4
of
vacancies
vacancies.
on the board. If we can, they both really seem interested in it and have levels of knowledge. Nancy Cromie, definitely having served on the board before, is really knows all about it. Stephanie Askew was newer and I don't think she had quite had the grasp of what the Historic Preservation Committee does so much, but she does have an interest in Redstone, and I would support both of them personally.
I would support both of them
Yeah.
going forward.
I think Stephanie's idea about the greenhouse is pretty cool. That'd be great to see that come to fruition in Redstone.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Okay, I'll cut it off there because I know we have
P&Z.
P&Z coming in, we have lead.
Great, thanks for driving
Thanks for
today.
coming
That was a
down.
great, that was a great meeting over there. Georgia, you would have enjoyed it. We really had a good time.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So we can try to do board reports next Tuesday, and future agenda, we always have that on anyhow.
Okay, great.
All right, thanks, everybody,
Thanks.
and this work session is over.
Thanks,
All right,
Grassroots.
thanks for a nice trip over.
Yeah, that was really good.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful drive.
Yeah.